Hi, welcome to TechBrain YouTube channel. In today's video, I will be showing you how to build a user interface in the Django that interacts with the FastAPI backend. We will set up a Django project to display the FastAPI data on a frontend. This tutorial is perfect if you want to learn how to combine FastAPI speed with Django robust UI features. Let's dive in. In the first step, we start by installing the Django and creating a new project that will serve as the front end. We then create a new app called African UI within the project to handle the user interface where users will interact with the FastAPI backend. After creating the app, we add it to the installed app section in our app settings. We also configure paths for templates and static files to ensure Django knows where to look when rendering the UI. Next, we move on to creating Django views that will fetch data from FastAPI endpoints. In the African UI view file, we define two views, and one of it is country list, which retrieves a list of random African countries, and the second one is get country, which fetches data for a specific country by its name. We configure the URL patterns to allow users to access these views through the browser, routing the appropriate request to our Django app. Finally, we build the HTML template that will display the data fetched from FastAPI. The country list template will show the list of random African countries, and the search result template will display the results of a specific country search. Once the templates are in place, we run both FastAPI and Django and navigate to the browser to see the project in action, where we can view the countries and perform searches through the UI. Now, let's get started. Before we get started, let us break down what we are building today. On the backend, we use FastAPI, a modern fast web framework for building APIs with Python. FastAPI will handle the logic for fetching and returning data about African countries. We expose endpoints that can return a list of African countries here. Then we also have an endpoint that search for a specific country by name. We set the port to 8080, which you can see it's running, the port is running on 8080. On the front end, we will use the Django to create a user interface where users can interact with this endpoint. The Django will handle the UI logic, making the API more accessible for end users. Let's proceed by setting up the Django project to serve as the user interface. The UI will interact with FastAPI backend by calling its endpoints and displaying the data in a user-friendly format. First thing to do here is to create a project directory. Let's name it African UI. Then we seed into the project African UI. Let us set up our virtual environment. Okay. Then we have to activate the virtual environment. Now we've successfully activated our virtual environment. Create a Django project by running the following command: Django admin start project. African UI. Then next we need to create the Django app by using the following command: Django start app. Setup. Now we've created the African app. Let's make sure our settings are properly configured. We'll add a path for templates and static files here. So we also need to update this host so as to point to our FastAPI URL. Let's move on to creating views in the Django that will interact with the FastAPI. These views will fetch data from the FastAPI endpoint and display them in using the template. So let's go to our view under the countries here. Let's go to the view. In this view file, You can see we have this country list, which fetches a list of random countries from the FastAPI countries endpoint. Then we also have the search countries, which retrieves a specific country by name from FastAPI. The next thing to do here is to configure the URL routing for this view so that users can access them from the browser. You can see that we've successfully configured our URL routing for this view so that users can access them from the browser. The first one here will list all the random countries, while the second one, which we search for a specific country by name. We are now going to create a template folder. Inside this template, we are going to create two HTML templates to display the countries data. So we have countries list.html. So the first thing we are going to do here, we have to import, we are going to make use of the Bootstrap library to make our UI responsive. So now we're going to create a div container here, random African countries. Yes, then we're going to have a list. Going to create a list here. So for the list, we're going to have now we create a list for the countries. So we get the country's name. That is it for here. So here, style this. Now we have to create a second template. Add this country name, the exact country name. This will not be encoded yet. We have the country. Population. For the country capital. So this link will lead user back to the random list generated. Now let us run our code. Now that we successfully run our code, let's head over to our browser and navigate to this port, to this highlighted port, to see the list of the countries. Now you can see we have a list of our random African countries here. We've successfully run our code. Our code is now working perfectly. You can see the list of the 10 random African countries: Morocco, Ivory Coast, Egypt, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa. When you click on one of these, you can see that the link links to what you're searching for. Now go back by clicking the back to list. You can see it returns here. That is it for today's tutorial. We've successfully integrated a Django frontend with our FastAPI backend, creating a robust web application that allows users to interact with an API. So I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.